OCD Recording has been in business for how many years?
14.
14 years?
Yeah.
And I'll have to take some pictures when I leave out of here. You got a lot of albums on the wall out there in the waiting room, so been through a lot of projects.
Right.
Could you name some of the bands that you've worked with?
I've worked with Down, Exhorder, Crowbar, obviously. I did Kirk Winstein's solo album. I'm working on another solo album for Kirk right now. Yeah. A shit ton of local bands.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch.
And has this always been the same location, or have you moved during that time?
No, this is where I've been for 14 years. Yeah.
In Metairie.
Yep.
That's cool. Your most recent project is somebody that I ended up meeting up with was Blackwater Canal.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
It was a fun project. We did the whole thing in like 3 days.
That's what they said.
Yeah, and they were here the whole time. We recorded it, mixed it, edited it, all at the same time with everybody here standing over me.
Right.
And it was pretty fun, actually. You know, it's kind of like that under the gun, you know, run and gun kind of recording.
Sure.
It wasn't sit there and edit for several hours and mix for a couple days. It was just everything old school.
Yeah. And you said Vinny LaBella from Exhorder was co-producer on that?
Yeah.
And you did say he's the meticulous type, so how did that work out? This 3-day rush with a meticulous guy.
Yeah, he would kind of would stay out of the way.
Yeah.
In those situations, you know. But he'd pop in and say, "Why don't we do this?"
Yeah.
And make sure everything was, you know, up to standards, I guess, you know.
What's your normal span of time for a project that size?
It depends on the band. I mean, it's like the Exhorder album with Vinny. I mean, that was 4 months of us being in here, not just 4 months dilly-daddling around. It was like a month of pre-production and 3 months of recording the album with no days off.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day. It depends on the budget too. You know, I work with whatever budget the band has, and you know, if it's something where we're, you know, it's going to be shopped out to a record label or something and trying to get the best, and they got a little bit of money behind them, we might spend the extra time with the editing, or if they don't have the money and we're just trying to get the best we can in this, you know, at an affordable rate or whatever. So it could be something like that. Could be 5 songs, could be a 2-week project, or 3 days like it was with Blackwater Canal.
Yeah. Some of the guys that you've named that you've worked with, though, I mean, they really have their shit together, so to speak. So, I mean, when they come in here, you're not waiting for just the right vocal take or something. I mean, they're nailing it pretty much, right?
Sometimes not. You know, it's always different. I mean, you're working with artists, so there's, you know, moods and, you know, whatever's going on that day, or whatever, you know, equipment failures you're dealing with, or
sure,
whatever, or sometimes we're writing the stuff in here. So
okay,
you know, like a Crowbar album, they'll come in here and start recording and all, and nobody knows what the vocals are going to do while we're recording it.
Oh wow!
And then the day of, Kirk's writing vocals and comes in here and we start banging it out. You know, so some of the creative process happens right here.
Yeah. Okay. Which do you prefer? Does it matter?
It doesn't. I really take everything just as it comes. I adapt to whatever our situation is here.
Yeah.
You know?
That's cool, man. I'm sure it's kind of inspiring to see it unfold, so to speak, not knowing what you're going to have at the end of the day, and, you know, shaping that up, you know, being pleased with that. That's cool. You had mentioned Crowbar's last project was here. You did more than one album with them, though.
I've done 4 albums with Crowbar.
Okay.
I got to say, I probably owe most of my success to doing the first Crowbar album, because you know, before that I didn't have, you know, any kind of name to speak of, and then Kirk kind of took a chance on me, and we've been doing albums ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where had he been before that? I don't remember.
Where Crowbar was recording?
Yeah.
I don't know. They won a festival recording studio. They recorded all over the place, I'm sure.
I'm gonna have to look. I got a cassette tape by them back at the house, I think. Who else? I saw Misled was on the wall in there. Who else you been working with?
It's always something. So like right now I'm doing a band called Firebrain. They're doing like kind of reggae ska covers of like New Orleans standards, kind of like
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing that type of thing. I'm working on Kirk Winstein's second solo album right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. You know, I come in here and work on whatever comes up.
Yeah, I was going to ask about, I guess your workflow, so to speak. Are you juggling? Do you work on 2 or 3 different things in the same day, or do you stick with one thing like tunnel vision?
Sometimes, I mean, the OCD in me wants to like start a project and finish and go, but it never happens like that because you're working around people having different schedules and working around my schedule and everything. So
yeah, you
might have somebody come in and record the drum tracks for an album, and then I might have to sit on that for a month before they can come back in. And you know, some of the artists they have like the drummer might live out of town or somebody, and so we'll get together when we can. So there's stuff like that where I have drum tracks finished, but I don't know when we're going to do the rest of it.
Sure.
Or whatever.
Is it? I mean, you said you don't mind, but is it difficult to some degree to change so drastically from one genre?
Gears.
Yeah.
It can be when I'm mixing. Like I don't like to start mixing an album and then jump off and start mixing a different album and come back, because I get in different mindsets when I'm, you know, put on this hat to be, you know, artistically doing this,
right,
and then have to swap and come back to it. It's not the starting, it's the stopping and starting again.
Okay. So it messes up your rhythm, but you don't. Do you find that working on one project might kind of I don't want to say taint or anything, but you know, did you feel a little bit too skosh when you were working on some metal? You know,
no.
I mean, things are supposed to have certain characteristic sounds.
You adapt. I think the hardest thing is like coming in and getting in the mood to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can't go, all right, hurry up, be creative right now.
Sure.
So it's like
you can't force creativity. That's right.
So I'll come in and I gotta go through the whole ritual of getting in the mood to do it. But once I'm in the mood and I lock in, then I mean, it might be a 2-day process. Like mixing one song sometimes.
Yeah.
Just to find the rhythm or the you know, the whatever to get it going. You know.
Yeah, you can't force creativity. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like I said before I leave, I will take some pictures, but this place goes on and on and on. I don't think you realize from the outside just how many different rooms there are. And I mean, they're all with different purposes and everything. And you and I talked a bit about this before we started the interview, but you were telling me about the process of getting it to where it is today, and that it took a lot of work.
It was a dump, and you know, you think you know what you're doing when you get the idea.
Sure.
And so I had an idea how I was going to, you know, this wall's going to go here, this wall's coming out, we're going to put this here, and we executed it. And then throughout the years, it changed and changed. The equipment changed, the sound treatments changed. I built all the sound treatments around too from scratch. I built the desk from scratch.
Nice.
So, yeah, it when I first started here, everything looked quite a bit different than it does now. But yeah, it was a dump. It was like barracks in World War II or something like that.
How long did this process take?
It was crazy how fast we did it. Like I had bands that wanted to rehearse here, and that was part of the deal. They were helping with the construction and all. So we were like, I think it was something ridiculous. Like we did it all in like 3 months.
Yeah.
Like completely gutted the place and built it and had it like up and running in like 3 months.
Mm-hmm. And you did mention that you have rehearsal space here as well, and you are building another studio at home.
Yeah, I'm doing a home studio. I'm so used to working in this space that I modeled it. Like the control room is identical to this, same size and everything.
Yeah.
So I modeled everything kind of after this as much as I could for the vocal and the. So if I look right out here, I can see my vocal booth. Same thing at the news place.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a home studio. I can do whatever at the house. I don't know how much I'm going to do here and how much I'm going to do there. That kind of remains to be seen. It's going to be a kind of a science project.
And what was the catalyst for wanting to build something at home?
Two things. Like I wanted to. My kids don't get to see me enough, so at least I'll be at the house. That's one. And then two, at some point, I mean, I can't do this for the rest of my life, I don't think. At some point, I think I'll eventually shut this down, and I like the flexibility of being able to do it when I want at the house,
3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when inspiration hits.
Yeah, or not at all. I won't have the overhead of this, and I'd still be able to, pick and choose what I want to do and when.
Sure. You've had a pretty steady workflow throughout the years, you were saying.
Yeah.
Fairly accurate to say. Does it pay for itself? Does it generate enough to be able to have done all these things?
Oh yeah. It makes money,
For sure.
It makes money, and at first it did, and built up the clientele. But I've never advertised, so it's all word of mouth. And
that's
so
the
always,
best advertisement.
Yeah, you're always nervous, like, oh, I'm about to finish this up. I don't have anything booked, and then a day later you're completely booked.
Yeah.
So it stays rolling.
Yeah. And I mean, your name's on the back of a lot of albums these days, so it doesn't hurt either.
Yeah.
That's cool. For the people that are listening, there's going to be a podcast based off of this as well. Maybe you could go through some of the sort of tech side of this as far as some of the equipment that you prefer to use so they know what you're working with.
Sure. This is a old school 90s Soundcraft console, like a live sound console, but they have basically it's the same preamps that they had in their big studio console, but I had it all modded out in Nashville. And I mean, I'm sure that the guys that were building studio consoles in the 90s were the same guy, and it's a British console, so it's probably the same guys that were working at SSL and like the big British console companies. I like working with an analog console, and this is a digital console. So the analog console feeds the digital console, and I have the best of both worlds. So I have, moving faders and stuff on here, and send mixes out to there with on the faders and everything. And then I got a bunch of outboard stuff over there. That's like a Neve clone. I got some API preamps and some modded out compressors by Jim Williams. Jim Williams is the dude that does all the work for he did like Frank Zappa's guitars and a bunch of big names or whatever. He's the one that told me about the console, because I was looking for a console for the studio.
The analog console.
Yeah, I wanted an analog console, and I was telling him what I was looking at. And he goes, "Just go buy this. It's a Soundcraft Venue." He said, "Go get a Venue or a Delta, and you have that modded. It's as close as you can get to audio perfection." And so, I mean, I didn't know any better, so I just followed what he said.
To the letter.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And it served me well. Other than that, the microphone in the vocal booth, I absolutely adore. It's a mic that I had a guy in California build me. His company is Barbaric Amplification, and his name's Chris Prucher. And I got to just talking to the dude, and I told him what I wanted or whatever, and we kind of hit it off. And he said, "Look, let me build you this. If you don't like it, send it back, and I'll build you what you want." And meanwhile, I was sourcing some of the parts for it, and I was sending him everything. And I went on the forums, and the dude's telling me about this. I needed a tube, and I went to the tube guy, some guy in a forum, and he said, "Look, I got the special tube for you." And I'm like, whatever, right?
Yeah.
He goes, I got the special tube, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take it, And this guy's like, he's well known. I think he goes by Bowie on the forums. He's the tube guy, right? And he's got all this new old stock of tubes, and he goes, yeah, I got this, it's a special tube. I'm like, all right, whatever. I get it, and I send it to my boy, and he goes, where did you get this tube? He goes, this is, it was, Mike's his circuit design. He said he's never heard it sound as good as it does with that tube in it. And when I got the mic, I was blown away. I've never heard anything like it before.
Really?
Yeah. He named the mic after the studio, after OCD.
Mm-hmm.
We put his name and my name. It's OCD BA for Barrack Amplification 51, I think. OCD BA 51.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a nice piece of gear. I like the stuff that's kind of like not what you buy off the shelf.
Sure.
Something that's kind of...
A lot of times you'll get your own signature sound that way too, you know?
Proprietary to my place.
Right. Yeah. You got, like I said, some people are not going to be able to see this, but you got guitars hanging all over the place. You got a whole stage full of equipment outside.
Right.
I mean, it's stacked. This is stuff that you've accumulated over the years because you were in bands yourself.
Yeah, a lot of it, but then anything really nice guitar-wise, a good friend of mine that I work with constantly, his name's Hugo Miranda. Mm. If you see a nice guitar, it's Hugo's. Hugo, he played in a band called Retro Electro, and I did a solo album for him too.
Retro Electro, you said?
Retro Electro.
Uh-huh.
And we hit it off, and we've been working together since.
Yeah.
He's here like every week, and yeah, you see something nice on the wall, it usually is.
That's cool, man. Yeah, these are gorgeous.
Yeah,
I really like them. The far room, you said Crowbar still uses for rehearsal.
They rehearse over there, and it's chill for when they're recording. It's so easy to stuff. They can practice the song over there and then come over here and record it.
Gotcha.
So
that's just their situation, though. You're not really renting out rehearsal space or anything like that.
No.
I gotcha. Oh, far out, man. I wanted to tell them about how many Exhorder albums.
Just the one.
Okay.
So, but it was kind of a big deal because they didn't put out an album for 30 years.
Right.
And I was super proud of what we did here. Like, sometimes you're a part of the album, but sometimes you're really a part of it. We worked hard on that album.
The title was
More in the Southern Skies is the name of the album.
All right.
Yeah, it was grueling. So you have albums that you do that's like your local band comes in, you bang out an album, and then you have like the stuff that's more like major record label stuff and that was probably the most, like, we were in touch with the record label while we were doing it, and we were under the gun trying to get it finished, and it was real work, but super proud of the way that album came out.
Yeah. What are your hours like on a project like that when you're under the gun, so to speak?
So I usually I might be here for like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I try to wrap it up at 10:30. It's giving me enough time to get some sleep, and that kind of album would be like we're pushing it, might stay here like 11:30, midnight.
Yeah.
You can't stop in the middle of progress. So
sure,
you have to get to that stopping point.
But you also have a life too. You try to,
something
right?
like that.
The reasonable facsimile.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. I think that's about it. I'm gonna take a walk around and get some eye candy for everybody to see.
Right.
And hopefully they don't start beating down your doors after this famous interview happens.
Right.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.